Y 85 na legislatura in Guam is back from recess. We will now recognize Senator James Moylan, Jim Moylan, on Bill 218-35 COR. Senator Jim.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move to accept Bill 218-35 Core as substituted on the floor.
Senator Jim, is this bill being further substituted?
No, Madam Speaker, as if we already have a substitute version.
Substituted on the floor and further amended. Am I right, Madam Clerk? Senator Jim? Senator Jim.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to place Bill number 218-35 Core as substituted on the floor, introduced by myself, which is an act to amend subsection 58104F of Article 1 of Chapter 52, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated. It's relative to creating a qualifying certificate for the enticement and potential establishment of a processing, trade, and distribution, transformation, or fulfillment center industry on Guam. On the third reading file, and I would like to discuss it, Madam Speaker.
So I just want to make sure that you're correcting Chapter 58 and not 52. Am I right? Senator Jim, I'm sorry. I heard you say Chapter 52.
Oh,
but
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, of Chapter 58, Title 12. Madam Speaker.
On that motion, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So Bill 218 is a measure to entice a new industry on Guam. It's relative to adding a new industry to the matrix of industries which potentially qualify for incentives under GITA as qualifying certificate program. I want to start off by this measure does not dictate what these incentives are or shall be, as that's the function of GITA, and it's their responsibility to address which applicants qualify for what. So as we seek ways to overcome our economic crisis, it's critical that Guam becomes a hub to attract new industries, and this is one of them. We have great potential with GITA QC program, and it should be used to attract new types of businesses which would create jobs and add to our tax base and essentially help stimulate our economy. Once again, we're here to discuss what the benefits should be. We're not here to discuss what the benefits should be and even how long they should be available, as that's the role of GITA. They should also have the final say in regards to which applicants qualify for such benefits based on their business plan. We're here today to merely add another industry to their listing. And since the introduction of this measure, there have been some discussions on potentials of this business on Guam. While we don't know where this measure will take us, one thing is certain, the opportunities are certainly there. So Bill 218 is versatile, and it opens up opportunities for either our local companies who want to diversify or off-island entities who want to invest on the island. For my colleagues, I also like to bring to your attention on the substitute version and why those changes were made. A couple of suggestions in the committee reports, and one is by our legal bureau, suggesting for our consideration. Their concern was about the authority of the issuance of the qualifying certificates And that's also a concern of GITA as well. So both legal and GITA are concerned about who is the author, whose authority is it to issue these certificates. And they reference the Attorney General's guidance related to the approval of the authority of the issuance of the QCs. So the recommendation on the authority of issuance on the qualifying certificate was corrected in the substitute version by removing Section 3, subsection 58104.1, which was titled the approval of the new qualifying certificate. So in the substitute version, that Section 3 is gone. And we also made the changes based on Legal Bureau's review and suggested track changes in the substitute bill on the floor. GITA also had some recommendations as well for our consideration. The first suggested was in their letter of February 10, 2020, that on Guam, a requirement of at least 50% of the finished product shall be assembled to qualify for the tax incentives. So GITA further states that in their March 5th letter, that the definition of what 50% assembled in Guam means to be included in the bill. Instead of that, well, basically the answer is the bill states on page 2, section 2, lines 24 and 26, that at least 50% of the finished product shall be assembled on Guam to qualify for the incentives of this chapter. To get into too much details about actually determining the 50% and what it is and what it encompasses, it's difficult to do, and it should be left up to GITA to consider. It all depends on the industry that is submitting their business plan and completing that long, almost 50-page application for QCs. Maybe simply put, you can say, for example, that it could be somebody interested in making island shirts. And let's see, Will's Island Shirts, for example. And that island shirt has this huge button on it. And that button also plays music. And that button costs 50% of the product. So we don't know really what the 50% will be. Would it be the cost? Will it be one button that is so large, much larger than the others? We really don't know. So allow GITA to figure that out based on the business plan proposed. Page 2, lines 6 through 4 on the bill also states the legislation does not dictate the benefits to be offered to the investors, as that's the function of GITA. Rather, it includes new industries into the matrix of qualified trades for available incentives that can help establish additional economic activity on the island. The attraction of labeling the goods as made on Guam may be enticing to factor as well. The bill does not address the specifics on how GITA should administer the qualifying certificate. It could be somebody making tennis shoes, right, from getting these products from off-island and assembling it here as well. It could be, for example, Joe's tennis shoes. He submits that in for a business plan and completes that 50-page application, and he talks about the best blue diamond tennis shoes that you ever have. And that those tennis shoes are so good, and they got a qualifying certificate, and those shoes are shipped around the world. So it's up to GITA's board to create the regulations of this bill, to which Adelup has the final say. So to reiterate what the Attorney General's office stated, the legislature has no authority to negotiate, review, or approve the executive branch contracts. GITA also had another concern. Because of the monitoring and compliance review, that it would be necessary to ensure that this requirement is met will be quite onerous to GITA's compliance division. So they recommend us to consider this requirement or authorize that such funds as necessary shall be paid by the qualifying certificate beneficiary. Well, go right ahead. Joe's blue diamond tennis shoes may be such a great industry and made so much money. the creator of Joe's Blue Diamond Tennis Shoes would be happy to do so. Again, that's up to GITA to decide. So GITA also has the concern under the definition of distribution, transformation of a fulfillment center. The bill states that products are to be redistributed to consumers off-island. And it appears that this language may prohibit or prevent such businesses from selling locally, which may or may not have been the intent of the language. Again, it all depends on the business plan of this industry that they submitted. It could be for here, or it could not be. And that's GITA's discretion. And on page 2, lines 7 to 9, the bill states, as for distribution, transformation, or fulfillment centers, Guam's proximity to Asia region benefits the potential tariffs and timelines, and thus allowing the goods to be imported, sorted, processed, and shipped from Guam. To reiterate, GITA's board shall create the regulations of this bill, to which Adelup has the final say. As the Attorney General Office has stated, the legislature has no authority to negotiate, review, or approve the executive branch contracts. GITA also had another item they suggested, which was made by the removal of Section 3, which I reported to earlier. Another concern by GITA, they believe that nothing in this current QC statute precludes any interested company in applying for a QC for the activities identified in this bill in the services or manufacturing categories. So of the 17 categories that GITA considers may qualify for QC, 2 of which they just have the term manufacture with no definition and services with no definition. So they said, this bill could just fall under one of those 2. Well, that's fine, but interesting enough, since the introduction of this bill, companies have testified, and there is interest in this just by adding this into the matrix. So why not add it to the matrix? So, Madam Speaker, basically that's my proposal here, and I hope to attain your support I asked my colleagues, I hope to attain the support on Bill 218, since we have an opportunity to entice new industries and hopefully get more of our people back to work. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Moylan, on the main motion, anyone wishing to speak? Senator Perez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Looking at this bill, I think it's really important that, I took a look at this bill and I thought that it's important that we expand our industry here on Guam. And I think manufacturing is such a critical thing that we need to bring back, to our island. I think it's important that we become the producers and we localize our economy to the greatest extent as possible. And in thinking about this, during the recess, I spoke to the author of this bill, and I just asked, what is the vision? What do you see? What is the outcome of this bill? And in talking it over, I think the big impact would be if shipping were to come from Asia, and then the export could be towards the United States. But currently, as it stands, we don't have direct shipments, from what I understand, from Asia. So the limit that may be the limiting factor in how the growth of this industry. It might be the limiting factor for the growth of this particular industry. But I do appreciate the intent of the bill. I just do have an amendment. So I believe in that GITA's suggestions are very critical to making this bill, improving this bill. I do have an amendment, but I'm also concerned that there was one suggestion by GITA where, what about selling it to local consumers rather than just, selling it off island. So I think that still needs to be addressed. But I do have an amendment in regards to what constitutes 50% of the product. And I believe it's been sent to the clerks.
Yes,
I don't know if it's available.
It's uploaded, so you want to go ahead and read the amendment? Or
Okay, does everybody have the amendment?
Go ahead and proceed, Senator.
Okay, so my amendment is line 1, page 3, to add a new section to the bill to read, A finished products must qualify for the Guam product seal pursuant to Public Law 18-42. Should there be any additional cost for GITA in evaluating this requirement, the QC holder shall bear the cost. So, yeah, basically this amendment is to address GITA's concerns about what constitutes, 50%. And I think with all the work that's being done with the Guam product seal, I think it's important to tie that into it. And in addition to having the QC holder bear the cost. So that's my amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Paris. Anyone wishing to speak on the amendment? Senator Jim, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, colleague, for the amendment. I have no objections to the amendment. Thank you.
Senator Sabina, I just want to make sure the clerk has brought it to my attention. Is this a sub-item A? Because you have a capital A on it?
Give me one moment. If I can request a brief recess.
Moments recess. En 85 na legislature in Guam is back from recess. Senator Parrish, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So yes, that A is basically aligning it with F1, so F1A. So it's going to be under subsection, that subsection. So it places it under that. I don't know if that makes sense.
It is in UA then. It's under F,
Yes.
1, and then
F1A.
sub A.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, everybody get that? On the amendment, anyone wishing else to speak? Senator Kelly.
Suduis Masi, Maska Halu. Yes, I have a question for the author of this amendment.
Please state your question.
So having it be a part of the Guam Product Seal program, I think is very beneficial. It gets to that recognition, as the author of the bill was mentioning, and it expands the whole Guam Product Seal program, which is a very active program. And the cost of the licensing is or being part of the program is very minimal. It's a $25 fee, so it won't overburden anyone. And I just want to make sure that with this amendment, it addresses the issue that Gita was bringing up, that they were worried about the cost of ensuring the compliance with the 50%. So this says in evaluating this requirement, is this felt by the author of the amendment to cover the costs associated with the compliance, which comes up perhaps several times a year?
Senator Perez, would you like to yield?
Yes, that's the intent of the verbiage there, is that the QC holders shall bear the cost for compliance, which is part of the QC law.
Thank you, Senator Perez. Senator Kelly.
Seduis Masi for that answer.
You still have the floor, Senator. Are you okay?
Yes, that was my only question for this
Thank
amendment.
you. Anyone else on the amendment? Senator Perez, did you have a point of information?
Oh, I wasn't finished.
Oh.
So I do have one more amendment. It's being...
But Senator, we have to
Oh,
vote on the amendment.
oh,
So I'm
sorry.
asking our colleagues if they would like to speak on your amendment. Anyone else wishing to speak on the amendment? If not, are there any objections? What? Would you like to close, Senator Perez, or would you like to call for the vote?
Just call
It
for the
does.
vote, yeah.
Are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. On your next amendment, Senator Perez, you may proceed.
So I'm not sure if it's sent to clerks yet, so if I can ask for a quick recess for that one.
If you want to go ahead and speak on it first, and then, is it being uploaded right now?
I think it's being created right now, but it'll be sent shortly. It's basically to address Gita's concerns that, you know, and to address the perhaps legal concerns if it's just going to be exported products, and to allow for these products to be sold on island.
We'll take a moment's recess. Senator Paris? Y 85 in the legislature in Guam is back from recess. Senator Paris, you are acknowledged.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm still waiting for the amendment to be uploaded.
Say that again. You need to refresh, Senator Paris. It's uploaded already.
Okay, yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. So I'd like to proffer this amendment. It's on line 23, I think 3, page 2 to 3, to amend section 58104F of the bill to read. So number 1, basically adding the words sells the products locally after processing, transforming, or assembling such products on Guam. So that's to ensure the local aspect is covered. And then in number 2, the words that are added is locally or, and I would like to allow legal counsel to make technical corrections.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak on this amendment? If not, are there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Senator Parrish, you still have the floor.
I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the main motion? Senator Pt.2, Assistant Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Saina ma'asi maska halu. So I too am in favor of policy that aims to create greater economic activity of value and diversity, as we've talked about for a long time. There is that note that nothing precludes any interested company in applying for a QC, and so with that, I listened to the description of the opening statement and some of the explanations, but I'd like to ask the author of the amendment the difference between a manufacturer and a processing trade company.
Did you want to hear that from the main author?
Yes, from the author.
Senator Jim, would you like to answer? Did you hear the question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If I understand correctly, difference between manufacturing and a product and trade company, right? Is that, if I'm getting this correct?
Again, yes, to just clarify the difference between a manufacturer and a processing trade company.
Senator Jim, did you hear that?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Let me Google. But basically, you're gonna manufacture it. You're gonna build it here. You're gonna create it here, right? And I can't really break it down any further. And then the processing, trade, and distribution and transformation materials, you can assemble different parts of the product here, or you can bring in the raw materials and assemble it here, or you can just you bring in the tabletop and from one place, and you have the legs made on Guam. Whoops. Right? And if you're going to manufacture, you make the whole wood. You can make it manufactured every product on Guam if you wish to as well, or buy the glue from someplace else. So it's just how you mix the pie together, Madam Speaker, and it's if we try to define it too deeply, it could be dangerous from not allowing us to attract these different companies that have these business plans that I couldn't even think of. So I would not wish to just over-identifying, by allowing GITA the ability to look at this industry, whichever it may be, for manufacturing or assembling based on based on the business plan that they want to present, based on what great risks they want to come to the island of Guam to do this, based on their profitability that they think they can make, and based on the employment that they think they can create, and somehow make a profit. So let's allow Gita, Madam Speaker, and I can understand the question. I appreciate the question from my colleague, and I probably didn't answer it directly, but if I was in Gita's place, I would be able to answer that. But I'm not. And I prefer just to let it stand, or if there's an amendment to clarify that, I'll be happy to entertain the amendment as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Taitano, does that help?
Well, there wasn't a clear delineation between the two. And there just wasn't a clear delineation between the two. But yeah, I will continue to read this on face value because that's what I have before me. So I appreciate you allowing me to ask, seeking for some clarity that would delineate between the two. But I will continue to read it on my own and perhaps Google, as was suggested. Siduos Masi.
You're very welcome, Senator Taitano. Anyone else on the main motion? If not, Senator Moylan, would you like to close and put it into the voting file?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A motion to put Bill 218-35 core as substitute on the floor, move to third reading voting file, Madam Speaker.
On that motion, is there any objections? Seeing or hearing none, motion carries. Assistant Majority Leader, on a motion to recess till Monday at 10.
Maskahulu, I motion that we recess until Monday at 10 a.m.
On that motion, we are in recess till 10 a.m. Monday morning.